Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of 8 Letters Book Talk. Today, we have not one, but two very special guests. But before I ask them to introduce themselves, I would like to ask both of them, how are you doing today, po?
Doing fine, thanks.
Doing great.
Wonderful. I'm also doing great. It's a little bit rainy today, but we'll try to make this book talk as casual and relaxed so that we enjoy this discussion of the book. So without further ado, I'd like both of you to introduce yourselves. Maybe we can start with Sir Kevin and then Sir Kyle po.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Kevin James Ferrarian, and I am one half of the Brothers K.
Okay. I am Kyle Jacob Ferrarian, the other half of the Brothers K. That's about it.
Great. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves po. Now for the next question, I would like to know, of course, and I'm sure the readers would also like to know, what inspired both of you to write together? Do you have any personal experiences or philosophies that inspired you to write this book?
I'll start. We were like writing together for years now. We were since we were children, we've always kind of wrote stories together. It was mostly like a back and forth where we just kind of like just write stuff, and then we work together on that. And it came out of like video games. We were playing video games a lot when we were younger, but then in my case, it was always like, there isn't a video game that has this specific kind of story, that doesn't go this specific kind of way. And I've always wanted to see that sort of direction. So that sort of encouraged me to write those stories that I didn't read or couldn't find. Like I had to make them myself. And then my brother was there to help me. And then it was the same for him, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Like in my case, it was video games, but also because of history and also Bible stories that I'd hear in school. So like for me, that's where it started. Like making like those historical fictions, those those reimaginings of certain Bible stories, and then of course when it came to video games, it was me and Kyle. So yeah, it just came. In a way, it just came together naturally.
Thank you for that, Sir Kevin and Kyle. I think it's very interesting that both of you are able to bond through video games, and as a result of that, you were able to create a book together. And I think it's also telling of the kind of childhood you had, and of course of your creativity. I mean, both of you individually and together. I think it's a very special duo, and I was actually amazed when I read the about the author section and found out that both of you were brothers. So I think that's a very
It's
wonderful.
there.
It's very cool, because I don't think I've ever read a text or met with authors who wrote with their siblings and actually created something really nice. Because for context, I had to read the book before this interview, and it's very moving and it's very touching. So I was very much very interested in the fact that you guys were brothers and that you were able to come up with such beautiful writing. So for the next question po, I'd like to know, and I'd like to hear your thoughts also. So the book explores how humans became more violent and hostile in hopes of becoming the most powerful beings. How does this relate to current issues and inhumane acts happening around the world?
Well, the direction we took with this book is we wanted to explore the themes of imperialism, nationalism. Generally, these things were coming into the center stage for society around the time period of the second half of the book. In the case of like the story, it's like humans are in a position as of weakness. They are subordinate to other like overlord powers, so to speak, and then they their goal is to emancipate themselves from that oppression. And this is where we explore like the nationalist tendencies, like humans trying to uh, get a leg up over them to become more than their current place. um, and in a lot of ways, like a lot of today's current political events are consequences of imperialism and nationalism. um, just to draw like parallels between what we wrote in the book, because we took a lot from our understanding of history and from what we learned from that. uh, what happens to the humans in the book is a very similar story to the Berlin Conference, which divided Africa between the European powers, similar to the Treaty of Tordesillas, which divided the world in half for Spain and Portugal. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the, yeah, as I've said before, a lot of the present issues um, impacting the world right now are consequences of imperialism. Russia is invading Ukraine, and the reason that they've proudly given, is that a long time ago Ukraine was part of Russia, it's part of the Russian Empire, so on and so forth. And then we sort of see this justification being used, like this is the way the world used to be, so this is how we decide to live our lives now. As that justification, it's in this it yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling.
But though, well, I guess it's a bit of a oversimplification that this is just about humans becoming violent. The core idea of the book really was it actually came from like, yeah, some of these like these, you know, these thought experiments, these ideas we had when we were younger of like, take your typical medieval European fantasy setting and have it progress through the eras to the modern day. And this book basically sort of captures that. But yeah, like our but yes, like there is a lot of conflict in history, but we also sort of capture like like other areas, you know, like human growth and development. Like the book starts off like a bit more anthropological, but it delves like much more to that, like from the middle part like towards the second half, like it really delves into that into the violent nature of humanity, as we will see. And if you've well, you know, you've read the book, right? So you would know that it's not spontaneous. It's not something that just randomly happens. Like as my brother said, like it's basically a product of, well, of course, to like put into perspective of you know of our history, right? It's basically a product of of imperialism, of colonization, like for the lack of a better term. And then, and yes, we see like humans basically being dehumanized, like, yeah, like in the middle part onward, like we see them dehumanized. We see them being like being like genocided, basically, like subject to a lot of let's say a lot of harsh-handed measures by the elder races. And then that's where sort of humanity having that violent tendency as a result of that. And then, of course, combine it with progression, where like because in this world, right, humans cannot use magic, so they instead use their minds. And then we sort of see that play out, like especially in this, like, of course we see hints of that in the first half of the book, but we will see, but as you have read, right, it starts getting like more and more like like uh it's more present in the second half. And then and then as you and then as and then as and like you've asked, right, the violent and hostile nature of humans, like it really like boils to the climax of the book. um and Kyle, I think when we talked about this guy, like you actually you actually said something. I forgot what it was.
Um, I don't remember. I can't recall.
No, no, it was about oh, what was that? What was that again? Uh, yeah, sorry. Sorry, I think I was trying to go to the factor.
While you're trying to remember, sir, may I just share my favorite passage from the book? Because
Sure.
it's interesting how both of you were able to explain or at least connect some inspirations or correspondences to actual issues and historical events that took place in the past. But um, this is my favorite passage because I felt it encompasses like the main message and lesson that I actually got from the book. So um, it says, "But in many years I have seen and heard the stories of men, and while uttered in different languages across thousands of leagues and over just as numerous years, many of their stories tell of a similar tale. They preach that in time all sons replace their fathers, and even the tallest trees are cut down to make way for new ones to grow. It is a story only the lesser races can truly accept, being so painfully aware of how fleeting all in this world are." And I think this connects to the subordination and conflict that both you, Sir Kevin, and Sir Kyle mentioned a while ago. And just like recognizing that humans have limits, and we've had to learn that the hard way, and we see that through history. So yeah, that's my favorite passage po. So for the next question, I would like to hear both of you your thoughts regarding this. How can you encourage Filipinos to read and engage with Philippine literature, including works of fantasy and fiction?
Well, if I may, well, I guess deviate a little from the question is that, well, it's I really have more advice, like more. Well, I have advice, but it's more so towards authors, writers, creators, rather than audiences. It's just like um, like we were actually in this talk, and I think it was hosted by Sir David Chan, one also a fellow author here at 8L, and author, he wrote the Kindred Chronicle series of books, and we're proud to have called him we're proud to call him a mentor and a friend in some respects. But yeah, like the advice he gave us, like it really stuck. It went along the lines of, like, you should not have a you should not have a, like, like a support local type of mentality when you make your stories, when you make, like, well, whatever any product, really, like, like yeah, you should not have a like you should not be begging, like, for people to support local, because in a way that's kind of self-defeating, and also well, self-limiting, rather, but yes, in some respects also self-defeating. But what you should really be go what you should be really doing, rather, is that you should make your whatever content you want to create. It should be You should make it like international standard, like make it go international, and then the locals will just follow.
Great point, Sir Kevin. Sir Kyle, would you like to add po?
I agree with what he said earlier about how, specifically for writers, I suppose it's the support local mindset uh, doesn't necessarily work in comparison to simply appealing to a broader international audience, and then from there, sort of getting the uh, local support in the sense that they're like, oh, it's something another Filipino has made, and it's getting recognized beyond the Philippines. We should support that. I think from the perspective of the reader, it's also like a similar thing, because I think a lot it's what prevents a lot of people from really getting into Philippine literature, like Filipinos from getting into Philippine literature, is that same support local mindset. It's that in my case, I went to Ateneo. I studied psychology, and I always, before going to Manila to study, I always had this sort of sensation of like, oh, I'm worried about like reading this book or reading that book because it's Philippine literature, and I'm not very good at speaking Filipino or speaking Tagalog. And I feel like what helps a person read or engage with Philippine literature, if they're like skeptical, like I am, about getting into something I can't quite understand, is try not to like be so actively like this is Filipino. This is like so actively like identifying it as Filipino. Just read it as like treat it as literature, and just ignore like that part if it's what's bothering you, and just get through it. And then at the end, if it's a good work, you'll realize it's good work, and that's what Philippine literature needs. It's we should avoid supporting it strictly because it's Filipino, because I think that's what makes it a chore for a lot of people. And then just treat it as literature, good or bad, and then for the good ones, you offer that your endorsement and read it.
Thank you so much for your insights, Sir Kevin and Sir Kyle. I think that's a nice way to look at it. I've talked to previous authors for different book talks, but I think no one so far has brought up this kind of alternate perspective to look at literature in general. So thank you so much, and I'm definitely learning so many things from both of you. So for the last question, do you have a final message to the readers and audience? Maybe a passage or message from the book that you like, or just general advice or tips that you'd like to share to your readers?
Well, simply just to have fun with it, to engage with it, because the way we wrote Gnome is like yes, yes, like of course many of our friends, like who we've shown the book to, have commented a lot on the world building, but I like to think that we didn't make the world too detailed. We didn't make the story like we didn't overwrite the story in a sense, because I guess part of that was because we wanted people to engage with it. Like we wanted people to use their imagination a little, like in the story. Like of course there's subtext in the book, but like the way now we fleshed out the story and the world was that so that people could engage with, to have fun with it, like to come up with their own interpretations for certain events, like certain events, certain aspects about the world, certain cultures, certain peoples. And and yeah, because I think some of these friends now whom we've talked to, like they basically came up with their own like scenarios, with their own bits of world building that we did not explicitly write in the book. But when they talked to us about it, like it felt real now, like and in a way we actually kind of did a good job in creating the world and creating the story. And my message is just to simply have fun with it. you know I mean, because what kind of writers would we be if people weren't having fun with the stories we wrote, like if they weren't if they also weren't taking part in building their own version of the story, if you will.
Um, so yeah, like I agree. Just have fun with it, and I think in like more general, like beyond the book, a good final message I would want to give is just keep reading. I think if you're a writer and you want to write more, reading is also a big part of improving yourself as a writer and as a person. I think you can learn a lot from even fiction and fantasy. Like through their themes, you can sort of improve yourself as a person, or simply just improve your skills, it, like behavior skills. Anything really can. A lot of good can come out of reading. Um, and I guess more specific advice is, if you can, get a physical paperback copy of a book, because reading online is quite annoying. I'm sure a lot of people can agree with that.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I've actually had more fun reading the test copy 8L rather than reading the reading the draft in MS Word for the nth time. But yes, our book is out. It's currently on the 8 Letter Shop and on Shopee and Lazada, and you can order and yeah, you can order it from there.
Thank you so much for those wonderful messages, Sir Kevin and Sir Kyle, and also for your time. That will conclude our book talk officially. Once again, I am Gloria, and stay tuned for the next episode of 8 Letters Book Talk. Bye!